Blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. Though spoken thousands of years ago, this sentence still echoes like a gentle reminder in a world full of turmoil. We often believe true strength lies in power, in fists, in superiority. But in reality, the most enduring strength comes from the softest place of all, compassion. It is mercy that helps people rise above hatred. It is kindness that heals wounded hearts. In the fiery, action-filled world of Hollywood superhero films, there is always an unspoken truth beneath the battles. It is not extraordinary powers that make a hero, but the choice to use those powers to protect and forgive. Today's story is just like that, filled with the spirit of the American cinematic style, reminiscent of warriors who once stood at the edge of life and death to shield the world. But above all, it is a tale about a heart large enough to show mercy, even when standing face to face with someone who once caused harm. Let us step into that journey, where the light of compassion can shake even the most fearsome forces in the universe. The city of Solaris Haven, America's bustling capital of prosperity, had long been a symbol of progress and technology. At night, it glowed like an artificial star field, skyscrapers wrapped in soft blue light, elevated highways weaving bright white arcs across the sky, helicopters humming above the low clouds. Elsewhere, the world still wrestled with chaos and conflict. But Solaris Haven always stood firm, promising humanity that hope still existed. Yet hidden beneath its glittering surface was something not everyone noticed. A quiet undercurrent of unease, like waves stirring beneath a glassy sea. The superheroes, those who once protected the peace, were now scattered after countless exhausting battles. Some lived in hiding, others continued protecting the world from the shadows. And among them was one man who never lost faith in compassion, despite the wounds life had dealt him. Evan Hart, an engineer and former member of Earth's Special Defense Unit. Evan had no superpowers, only his mind, courage, and one thing far more valuable, a heart that believed mercy could change the world. People mocked him, calling him too soft for a harsh reality. But Evan didn't care. He understood that if everyone chose hardness, then no one would remain gentle enough to mend what had been broken. One late autumn afternoon, as the city bathed in a deep, fiery sunset, Evan received an emergency alert from the satellite system he had once helped design. A foreign object was plummeting through the atmosphere at terrifying speed. City Hall immediately issued an evacuation order. Fire trucks wailed. Helicopters flashed red warnings overhead. But what struck Evan most wasn't the falling object. It was the faint distress signal coming from inside it. "No way! That's a biological signal," Evan muttered, heart pounding. When the object crashed in the outskirts of Solaris Haven, the ground trembled violently. A huge plume of smoke erupted into the sky, followed by screams and shattering glass. Without hesitation, Evan rushed toward the impact site. At the edge of a massive crater, among scorched metal fragments, he saw a figure struggling to rise. A stranger clad in a damaged armored suit, his eyes a storm of fear and desperation. He wasn't a villain, but he wasn't harmless either. He was the last survivor of a war the Earth had never known. And as Evan reached out his hand to help him, he had no idea. This decision would lead to a journey that would change the world. The wind whipped across the rising steam and ashes around the crater, carrying scorching heat that stung Evan's skin. Far above, rescue helicopters circled, sweeping beams of light across the debris-strewn neighborhood. Police were erecting barricades. Reporters were flooding in. Yet to Evan, the whole world seemed to slow as he stared at the trembling figure in the smoke. The armor on the stranger's body was unlike any technology on Earth, black silver metal laced with blue circuitry that now flickered weakly. Half of his mask was shattered, revealing tired yet guarded eyes. the eyes of someone who no longer believed anything in the universe was safe. Evan stepped closer slowly, raising both hands to show he carried no weapon. "Hey, I'm not here to hurt you. I want to help." The stranger tried to stand, but his legs buckled. He replied in a metallic, double-layered language, like two voices echoing as one. Evan didn't understand the words, but he understood the fear. "You're safe now. I won't hurt you," Evan said, voice soft, as if speaking to someone afraid of the dark. Suddenly, the stranger's armor glowed red in warning. Sparks of unstable energy crackled from its seams. Evan jumped back. The warrior recoiled as well, lifting his arms defensively, ready to strike. "I'm not fighting you." Evan raised his voice, but kept his tone calm. "If you want me gone, I'll go. But you're badly injured. You won't last long like this." For a brief second, the fear in the stranger's eyes softened, as if this was the first time in ages someone looked at him without seeing a threat. Evan moved in gently, opening a compact medical kit he always carried. Kneeling, he examined the exposed wounds beneath the shattered armor. Not red blood, but glowing blue liquid swirling like tiny stars. "Your biology, it's completely different from ours," Evan whispered. The stranger muttered something, then reached for a device on his mask. With a flicker, it projected translated audio. "I do not wish to harm. War has taken everything from me bout." Evan met his gaze and said quietly, "I believe you." The warrior froze. He was not accustomed to trust. As Evan helped him sit up, a thunderous boom erupted in the distance. A blazing streak tore across the sky and crashed into a nearby district. "What was that?" Evan gasped. The stranger's breath quickened. "They found me. If they capture me, Earth will fall." Evan felt cold settle in his chest. This wasn't an accident. It was a pursuit, and the pursuers weren't here for negotiation. "Who's hunting you?" Evan asked. The warrior lifted his gaze to the blood-red sky. "The Celestian Legion. They do not stop until every world that resists is erased." Evan was not a fighter. No super strength, no armored suit. Just fear pounding in his ribs like a war drum. But looking at the broken warrior beside him, alone, hunted, terrified, he saw something familiar in those eyes. Loneliness, loss, a silent plea for a hand to hold. He placed a steady hand on the warrior's shoulder. "I won't abandon you, not even if it's dangerous." The warrior stared at him deeply before whispering, "You are unlike any species I have met." Evan chuckled softly. "I'm just someone who believes that sometimes helping someone is the only right thing to do." A roaring engine tore through the clouds above. A colossal Celestian warship emerged, its crimson glow slicing down onto the city like a blade. The warrior grabbed Evan's arm. "They're here. If I'm taken, the mercy you showed me will become this world's death sentence." Evan tightened his grip. "Then we'll make mercy the thing that saves it." Citywide alarms blared. Civilians ran. Buildings trembled as the warship descended. Evan glanced at the alien warrior, someone who moments ago was considered a threat to Earth. But Evan knew, sometimes the world's greatest danger is actually its last hope. The Celestian warship tore through the final layer of clouds, revealing its colossal form. A floating fortress forged from black-silver metal. Veins of crimson energy pulsed across its body, like the heartbeat of an angry titan. Each time its metallic hull unfolded like monstrous wings, the sky trembled, and Solaris Haven quivered beneath it. Evan felt each vibration through the cracked asphalt beneath his feet. The stranger, now identified as the warrior who had fallen from the sky, clenched his jaw, fear and resolve crossing his face. "They have locked onto me. You must flee," he urged. "If I am captured, so be it. But if you get involved," Evan cut in, "you fell from the sky in front of me. Did you really think I'd walk away? Not happening." The warrior looked at him silently. Perhaps in all his life of battle and loss, no one had ever said something like that to him. A flash of red burst from below the warship. A sweeping wave of energy roared through the streets, vaporizing lampposts and shattering windows into glittering dust. Hundreds of civilians screamed and fled. Police shouted orders. Rescue crews scrambled. Evan dragged the warrior behind a half-collapsed wall. "What's your name?" Evan asked, panting. The warrior clicked a piece of surviving tech on his armor. The translation module crackled to life. "Orien. I am Orien Tal, last soldier of the Star Legion." "Orien?" Evan nodded. "I'm Evan. Let's try to stay alive for a couple more hours, and we can talk properly later." A faint, tired smile crossed Orion's face, his first in years. Then the ground shook again. Columns of crimson light shot down from the warship. 3 Celestian soldiers materialized, their armor black and smooth, their masks eyeless, only a thin red slit cutting across their faces. Wherever they stepped, the ground chilled, drained of all warmth, like their presence consumed life itself. Orien shoved Evan backward. "Stay back! Celestians show no mercy to anyone, even me." Evan swallowed. He knew he had no chance in a direct fight, but he had something else, his brain. "Can you still fight, Bo?" he asked. "My armor's energy is depleted. I have the strength of a normal human now," Orien said bitterly. "At best, I can hold them off for a few minutes. That's enough." Evan dragged Orien toward a toppled power tower. He ripped open a maintenance panel, pulled out his portable control board, and began hacking into the old electrical grid. "What are you doing?" Orien demanded, breathing shakily. "I'm going to use this tower to generate a localized EMP surge. It won't fry the city, but it might scramble the Celestians' navigation for a few seconds." Orien's eyes widened. "You can do that?" "Probably not." Evan smirked. "But hey, dying without trying feels worse." The Celestians approached. Their footsteps made the air grow dense, suffocating. The red slits on their helmets brightened, charging weapons. "Evan!" Orien cried. "Hurry! I'm trying!" Evan twisted wires, adjusted frequencies, fingers trembling. One wrong move could shut down the entire grid permanently. "I need 5 more seconds!" he shouted. The Celestian spotted them. One lifted its arm, energy swirling in its palm like a small sun ready to explode. Orien lunged forward, stepping in front of Evan even though he knew he was almost powerless. For a brief moment, Evan understood something profound. This warrior, this stranger, was willing to die for him. He couldn't fail. 3, 2, 1. Evan slammed the activation key. A deep, muffled boom rippled outward. A shimmering blue pulse spread across the street, passing through the Celestian soldiers like a wave of static. They froze. Their red visors flickered chaotically. "Orien! Now!" Evan yelled. Orien roared and charged. He kicked one soldier backward, spun, and delivered a crushing blow to the second's navigation module. With the third, he grabbed a shard of metal from the debris and used it as leverage to take the soldier down. They weren't the attacks of a super soldier, but of a survivor fighting for life, and for the one person who believed in him. But the victory lasted only seconds. The warship above roared with fury. A massive cannon unfolded, glowing crimson hotter than molten iron, aimed directly at them. Orien's face drained of color. "No! No! They intend to erase this entire block just to kill me!" Evan looked up. He knew instantly. No one, human or superhuman, could survive that blast. He turned to Orien, calm yet resolute. "Do you trust me, Orien?" Orien gripped his shoulder, voice breaking. "For the first time, I trust another being. But what are you planning?" Evan's expression hardened. The only thing stronger than cruelty is mercy. And before Orien could stop him, Evan broke from cover and ran directly into the kill zone beneath the warship's cannon. Orien screamed, "Evan!" But Evan kept going because he knew sometimes the only way to save someone is to face the sky that wants to destroy you.
Evan ran straight into the widening circle of red light pouring down from the warship's cannon. A man rushing toward a manufactured eclipse in the sky. The magnetic wind howled, pulling at his clothes, tugging his hair backward, but his eyes never wavered. In them burned one truth. He believed that mercy could overturn the impossible. Above him, the Celestian cannon swelled with energy. Red spirals tightened into a single lethal beam, a blade of pure annihilation ready to fall. Behind him, Orien struggled to rise among the shattered armor pieces scattered across the ground. His eyes that had seen countless worlds burn, filled with raw terror. "No, don't do this! Evan, come back!" Orien's voice cracked, but Evan kept walking. He pulled a battered transmitter from his pocket, the small device he once used only for test communications with a satellite array. Tonight, it would be his lifeline. He adjusted the frequencies, fingers shaking, and slammed the transmit button. A pillar of blue signal shot upward, slicing through dust and smoke, connecting directly with the Celestian warship. Inside the warship's command center, the computers blinked. A communication request from a human. The Celestians hesitated. Humans did not contact them. Humans fled, screamed, or died. Never spoke. Then a trembling voice echoed through their metallic chambers. "I know you're hunting Orien, but please, listen." The Celestian warriors paused, not out of empathy, but out of novelty. No one had ever addressed them with anything except fear. Evan took a breath that scraped painfully in his lungs. "He's not your enemy. He's just a survivor of a war you created." Silence spread across the warship. "And even after everything you did to him, he still chose not to harm us. He only wants to live." In the command chamber stood the Celestian High Sovereign, a towering figure clad in molten lava armor, glowing like cooled magma, etched with ancient scars. He studied the human on the screen. "Mercy?" he echoed, the word foreign, coarse. Evan's knees trembled as the pressure from the cannon forced him down, yet he clung to the transmitter. "Yes, mercy. If someone as small as me can show compassion to a warrior from the stars, why can't a mighty race like yours do the same?" The chamber went utterly still. "War took everything from Orien," Evan said. His voice broke, but he continued. "You pushed him to the edge of despair. But even in that despair, he didn't raise a weapon against us. He deserves a chance to live." Red light intensified around him. Dust lifted off the ground. His lungs burned, but he didn't step back. "If you want to kill him," Evan whispered, "then fire now, because I won't move. You'll have to kill me, too." On the street below, Orien froze. His body trembled, not from pain but from something deeper and far stranger than any battlefield emotion. He stumbled forward, voice raw. "Stop, Evan! I am not worth this! Not worth your life!" Evan turned, gave him a weary but gentle smile. "No one is ever not worth saving, Orien. Mercy exists for the broken, for the lost." Inside the warship, the High Sovereign watched the lone human battered by the cannon's energy, refusing to yield, refusing to hate. He had seen countless warriors fall, countless worlds burn, but never had he seen this, a fragile being defending a stronger one, not with strength, with compassion. Something unfamiliar flickered in his expression. Contemplation. He lifted one massive hand. All Celestians stood at attention. The cannon's glow dimmed. Then, with a thunderous click, the weapon powered down.
A beam of soft white light descended from the ship. Not destructive. A universal sign of ceasefire. A voice, no longer sharp with violence, echoed through the sky. You, human Baal, have shown us something unseen across the stars. The weak shielding the strong. One without power standing before death to guard a stranger. Evan, breath ragged, lowered the transmitter slightly. "This is mercy," he whispered. The High Sovereign paused for several long seconds. Then he spoke. "Withdraw forces. Cease pursuit. The being named Orien Tayal is granted freedom." Above the city, the warship closed its cannons, drew in its wings, and began a slow ascent into the clouds. Dust swirled around Evan and Orien as the ship departed. Orien rushed to Evan, catching him before he collapsed. "Evan? Why?" Orien whispered, emotion shaking his voice. "Why risk your life for me? I nearly brought destruction to your world." Evan leaned weakly on him, still smiling. "Because if we only show mercy to those who deserve it, then it isn't mercy." Orien closed his eyes, overwhelmed. For the first time in years, perhaps his entire life, he felt something like peace spreading through the aching void inside him. "You saved me, Evan Hart," he said softly. "Not with strength, but with your heart." Evan chuckled weakly. Everyone has a heart. Some people just forget to use it. The wind blew through the ruined neighborhood, lifting ash into the pale sky, yet within that grayness, something warm glowed, a new light of hope. The next morning, as sunlight slipped through the smoky remains of damaged buildings, its warm glow touched the neighborhood that had suffered so much the night before. Solaris Haven was still shaken, confusion lingering in the air, but something else hovered there too. Something gentle, a quiet peace, like the city had awoken from a nightmare and realized it was still alive. Evan sat on the cracked steps of a half-collapsed building. His clothes were torn, his face smudged with ash, but his eyes were calm. Orien stood beside him, gazing at the clear sky where the Celestian warship had disappeared before dawn. No more roaring engines, no more burning red light, only an open blue horizon, like a new beginning. "Do you think they'll come back?" Orien asked softly. "Maybe," Evan replied, "but if they do, I think they'll see us differently." Orien nodded. He still didn't fully understand humanity, but he knew one thing with certainty. Evan Hart had changed something inside him, and perhaps inside an entire race among the stars. Rescue teams rushed across the district, searching for survivors and clearing debris. When they noticed Orien, a few stepped back in fear. His armor, though damaged, still made him look imposing, foreign, dangerous. But Evan stood up, raising a steady hand. "It's all right. He's someone I helped. He didn't harm anyone." The simple confidence in Evan's voice made people hesitate. Then slowly, uncertainty softened into reluctant acceptance. They were tired, frightened, but in their hearts, they wanted to believe that not every unknown being came to destroy them. A little girl who had been separated from her mother ran up to Evan, tears streaking her soot-covered face. She grabbed his sleeve. "Mister, are you a superhero?" Evan smiled gently and patted her head. "No, I'm just someone who tried to do the right thing." The girl blinked curiously, then turned to Orien. "And him? Is he your friend?" Orien stared at the child, so small, so innocent, untouched by the cruelty of war. Something in him melted. He knelt down, activated his translator, and said softly, "I am learning to be." She giggled, a tiny sound that warmed the entire ruined street. As government forces arrived to secure the area, Evan knew Orien couldn't remain out in the open. The world wasn't ready for him yet, so Evan led Orien to his old laboratory, the place he once worked before leaving the Special Defense Unit. "This is the safest place for now," Evan said, pushing open the dusty door. Orien looked around at the scattered tools, blueprints pinned on boards, and scribbled equations. He turned to Evan, troubled. "Evan, why did you risk your life for me? I almost brought destruction to your planet." Evan answered without hesitation, calm and sincere. "Because if we don't show mercy, we become no different from what we fear." The words hit Orien with the force of a truth he'd never been allowed to believe. His hand moved to his chest, where a human heart would be, and he whispered, "You have given me something war stole, hope." Evan laughed softly. "Then starting today, let's find it together." Outside, Solaris Haven slowly began to rebuild. Walls were patched, roads were cleared, and hearts, tentatively, began to heal. Inside the small laboratory, lit by a beam of warm noon sunlight through a cracked window, two figures stood side by side. One human, one from a distant star, both changed forever. There were no more warships, no more cannon fire. Only one truth remained. Mercy had saved them both. Some battles end through strength, but there are other battles, deeper, heavier, that can only end when a heart dares to open, dares to look at the one before it, not as an enemy, but as a lost soul in need of a hand. Evan Hart wasn't a hero clad in armor. He possessed no extraordinary abilities. What he had was courage and mercy. And sometimes, those are the rarest powers of all. The story of Evan and Orien reminds us that mercy doesn't weaken us. It makes us stronger in the most profound way. When we choose to understand, to forgive, to reach out even when it's difficult, we don't just save others, we save our own hearts from hardening. In life, there will be moments that tempt us to close our hearts, to turn away, to guard ourselves against pain. But remember, kindness always has value, even when unseen. And sometimes just a single act of mercy is enough to alter the fate of an entire world. May you always carry within you that gentle light, the light of mercy.